Hi, my name is Zizaran, and this is a catch-up video for Legion, which is one of the core mechanics in the game. It's basically a video for those of you who either weren't able to play Legion or you don't really remember it. I don't know. If you want to catch up on the Legion mechanic. So the way this league works is it's basically you have a 10% chance in every map that there's going to be a Legion monolith there. And what that does is you click on the monolith, and then you have 15 seconds where a bunch of mobs will spawn, like quite a lot of monsters. Sort of limited on the map you're doing too. Like if you're in something like a toxic sewer, there will be less monsters than if you're in a volcano map with a lot of open spaces. So yeah, you have 15 seconds and you have to kill or rather unlock as many of these as possible. If you're on a weaker build, you could also focus on, for example, unlocking some of the chests or some of the particularly reward rares that are there. So while this is happening, you can't actually fully kill them, but you can damage them to unlock them. And then when the timer is up, so the 15 seconds, they will come loose and start attacking you, and then you have to kill them again, but this time they're actually fighting back. And when you kill them this time, then they are fully giving you rewards. And if you're on a really strong build, like in Legion, a lot of people are using Essence Strain Contagion, and this could very quickly, sometimes in 2 or 3 seconds, and some other builds as well, would also instantly clear the entire thing, or rather unlock the entire thing. And once you hit every single monster inside and fully unlocked it, it will instantly go loose before the 15-second timer. So that was a nice way, because a lot of people can find if you have a really strong build, it can be very tedious to sit around wait for 12 seconds. So the monsters that you didn't manage to free, they'll just disappear. And the two armies that you have freed will just start attacking each other. And then obviously there's different rarities, similar to Breach, where you'll have more common and more rare monsters. And a lot of them, these are very rippy. I would say several of my builds could be comfortably killing Shaper, Uber Elder, or tier 16 maps. And then would have a tier 14 Legion where I would just be getting one shot all the time. And the league has been nerfed a significant amount of times, is still insanely deadly. So while you're fighting and unlocking and killing these monsters, you'll see icons above their heads, and this is part of the reward structure. So they will indicate what kind of loot they will drop. So there'll be armor, weapon ones, jewelry, scarabs, fragments, divination cards, and these will pump out loads of stacked decks, which is obviously really nice. They give you any divination card. You can get Parandis, which can also actually give you Kidiro, which spawns when you open the chest. Maps, random uniques, breach items, splendors. You can actually still get actual breach stones as well. Legion splinters, fossils, resonators, bestiary items, talismans, and incubators, which is one of the special Legion things. And when you attack one of the reward structure monsters or one of the chests, they'll also free some of the normal monsters in a small proximity around them. There are large chests as well. They're called war hordes, and they drop a lot of splinters in addition to quite a lot of loot. I'd say that probably is the best thing you can get. Some people would argue the bosses, but the bosses are actually really dangerous and don't drop that much more than the incubators. So the bosses are things Queen Hyrie, stuff like that, and there's one for each faction. They'll drop, I think, 10 splinters and have a tiny chance for one of the very special timeless uniques that we'll go over later. If you're wondering how the incubators work, they're there's a lot of different types of incubators. There's some very special ones guaranteed 6-thing armor drop. Some people are maybe wondering, why couldn't we just instantly drop them instead of having them in an incubator? And the way they work is that you right click the incubator, left click it on a gear piece, and then you have to, well, it's basically like a Pokemon Go egg where you have to kill X amount of monsters. So some would be kill 2,000 monsters, 10,000 monsters, some will be 50,000 monsters. And once you've killed all those monsters, your egg will hatch and you'll get the loot. Now, it does actually add some sort of nice suspension where it does add some excitement. So I strangely like it. I thought I would hate it, but it's actually not too bad. And a lot of them are just usually like lesser rewards. Some of them are just guaranteed unique items, but there are some really cool ones. Another thing is when you see one of the Legion bosses, or even when you click on the monolith, there will be a purple beam shooting out from the monolith showing you exactly where the boss is. So that could be the first thing you look at when clicking one of the monoliths. There's 5 different factions. You have the Karui, the Eternal Empire, the Val, the Templars, and the Maraketh. The Maraketh being the most rare one, followed by the Templar, and the other ones aren't too far away in rarity. So let's talk about the timeless domains. So a lot of the rare monsters, as well as the boxes and bosses, do drop splinters, and they are very, very similar to breach stones. And they, once you have 100 of them, you can shift click, remove one from the stack, and put it back in, and it will form an emblem. Now you need 2 or more of these, up to 5, to go into a timeless domain. At the start, you can only do 4 because that's only how big your map device is. So 2 emblems is a very, very low level map, and then 5 is all the way up to level 83. So it does get very dangerous. And you go in and you'll be in like a little circular room, and there is like a sort of beam circle thing in the middle. And once you go inside this, you have to stand still for like 1, maybe 2 seconds. Actually, you can move inside the circle, but you have to like not leave the circle, and that will spawn a bunch of monsters, as well as their bosses. Now you want to kill the bosses and then go back into the circle again. You could also have somebody like going in and out of the circle. This was very popular during Legion League. People would team up, especially with somebody having a headhunter, to get like an insane amount of stacks, because the more that you're able to kill, the more you're rewarded in loot. So what most people would do, they would focus on killing the bosses and running straight from boss to boss, and then resetting the area. Now, if you're doing just 2 emblems, then that normally was like too easy for most builds. So it was very popular to farm either like 3 or 4, and then you pretty much needed a headhunter to be effectively able to profit off the 5 emblem one. Now, if you're wondering, how do you get the 5 emblems into the map device? Well, when you've done a 4 emblem encounter, you unlock the 5-slot map device. And you can unlock this for other people, like everyone that's with you unlocks this as well. And if you're doing like a 5 emblem map device later and you have friends with you, they will unlock that device as well. And then you have like the loot also varies quite a lot depending on like what boss you kill. So there will be like specific timeless jewels based on like what bosses you have in. So like the Maraketh jewel will only drop if you're fighting the Maraketh one. So that ended up being worth quite a lot because they had a lot of special things that the Maraketh jewel could change the skill tree with. We'll go in over that in a second. And at the bottom, you'll see like a big reward list, and that'll fill depending on what both rares and unique, like out of the bosses that you actually kill. It'll start filling up, and it will do multiple rows. So there's actually a max amount of rows that you can fill up, but the loot generally like keeps on going. That's why Headhunter was extremely strong for this, and then having somebody else reset the fight for you, so you could, for example, spin in a circle, was very popular, and you would just see someone's feet. So the number one thing to do here is just kill as many rares and commanders as possible. A lot of people focus particularly hard on the commanders because that is how you get the timeless jewels. A wise man once said, kill monsters fast. As for the rewards, they can be very rewarding. It's very common to get exalted orbs out of these. You can't get splinters, so you can't end up in an infinite loop of doing these. You got a lot of the really good and special incubators, like guaranteed 6 link or cross league unique, so that gives you a big chance for headhunter. Obviously the legion specific uniques, and then you also have one of the more complex things in the game, which is timeless jewels. So I have to explain timeless jewels. So for the timeless jewels, these are basically extremely complicated. I made a 15-minute video covering just these, and that's a pretty TLDR. The most TLDR that I could possibly give for timeless jewel is they're limited to one, and they have one per faction, and they change the keystone based on the name. So for example, of Zibakwa, that'll always change the keystone to like another certain thing. The number will change all the different nodes. Well, it depends a little bit on which jewel you have, and that's why I would recommend, if you're curious how these work, and like they are very complicated, watch the long video, because that like number will change depending on will change every like node and stuff. So they can be insanely complicated and very hard to figure out which ones are good. And some of them are selling for 100 to 200x. I think one sold for more than that as well. But they are one of the most strong things in the game. Particularly things that are very popular on these are a lot of fortify effect, and they have some really insane keystone changes, like the I think it's Doriani, that gives you a really nice sort of like turns your life into more energy shield, that sort of acts like a mind or a matter buffer. Like a lot of them are very strong. I really enjoyed playing with them. You can sort of like make semi-immortal builds, or at least like 90% survival builds. So there's some really cool stuff you can do with them. They're definitely worth looking into. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any more questions, you can drop by my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Zizaran. If you want to help support the videos and stuff, you can check in the description down below for all the sellout stuff. And thanks for watching. We'll be streaming a shit ton this December, so if you don't have anywhere else to be, we'll be live most of the time. Come check me out there. And thanks for watching. Try to die less than I do.